In January 2016, as the Flint water crisis was gaining national attention, the small town of St. Joseph, Louisiana was starting to make some noise. They saw that a major water quality crisis was occurring and thought that they deserved to show the world the problems that they were facing as well. For years, this small, declining, impoverished town of under 2,000 had dealt with yellow water. High iron and manganese plagued their system due to inadequate treatment methods and declining infrastructure. The latest was water that looked like chocolate milk exiting their faucets. For many people, it seemed that enough was enough. They had been living under boil water advisories almost constantly for the past 4 years, and if Flint could speak up, so could they. However, a major roadblock was in their way in the form of their mayor, Edward Brown, the incumbent since 2000. After citizen complaints went to the Capitol in February, the state agreed to set aside $6 million of the necessary $8 million in repair costs to help out the small town. They had also told the town that a state administrator would come oversee construction of the new system, but the mayor had to approve the administrator for him to have any authority. However, St. Joseph could not receive the money from the state because they were not in compliance with state legislation. Mayor Brown had yet to submit his financial audits from the previous fiscal year. He also continually refused to approve the state-appointed emergency manager, apparently due to his pride. 4 more months went by, and news broke that the mayor had been misappropriating funds through overpaying himself and awarding contracts to family members for work that was never done. In June, investigations began. A state auditor came in and found Mayor Brown guilty on multiple counts, and a Tensaw Parish judge removed financial authority from the mayor and the town board of aldermen, so the state administrator was allowed to come and oversee the construction of the new distribution system. This brings us to my interviewee, Dr. Adrienne Katner, a faculty at Louisiana State University. Adrienne has worked on lead and water issues in New Orleans over the past year. She has multiple connections with the state and has a story to tell of her involvement in St. Joseph as concerns over lead have spiked.
Right. Well, some of the community members reached out to me. They knew that I was doing this study on lead and water in New Orleans, and they just reached out and they said, hey, can you sample our water? So I sent about 5 kits up there to St. Joseph, which is north of Louisiana, north of Baton Rouge, and 3 of them came back with, one of them with high levels of lead in the water. I think it was above 40, I think it was 42 or 43 parts per billion. And that was concerning. So I sent the results in to the state. The state didn't do anything about it, but the residents actually took the data and they brought them before the state legislature. They were arguing a bill at the time on infrastructure improvements for the state, and they got the attention of some of the legislators, and who then contacted the Secretary of the Department of Health and Hospitals, who then immediately contacted me and said, what's up, why didn't you show us these results? So I had to explain to them, well, I did send you the results and I don't know what you guys did with them. So they were not very happy with this, and immediately started accusing the premise plumbing for the lead. And I said, no, they have plastic pipes, so it's probably not that, I don't think, but I wasn't sure, so they investigated it.
Adrienne was then invited to a casual meeting to discuss lead in New Orleans and found lawyers and heads of Louisiana Department of Health and Hospitals present. She simply informed them of her concern over the high levels of lead she found in St. Joseph.
Instead of being concerned, though, they were just upset. They were upset because it's going to cost them money, because now they've got to make a promise to repair the infrastructure. So there was no concern for the people. The state health officer still to this day tells people that the water is safe to drink. But when asked on camera would he drink the water, he politely declines.
Yeah.
Really, ever since then, I've just been trying to keep laid low because it's really destroyed all of my relationships with DHH. These are relationships that I, maintained for many years because I used to work there. These are some of my dearest friends, and they've been told not to talk to me, not to work with me. It's an issue of pride, of reputation. And this is what I saw when I was working for the state. I saw that they were more interested in keeping public perception of them without any kind of blemish, instead of actually helping the people. It was a second thought. I didn't even think that anything like this could happen. Of course, I've been doing the lead project for a year in New Orleans, which has isolated me and made enemies of the utility and the city health department. When I started the New Orleans project, the utility said, well, we're not going to work with you because of Mark Edwards. If you get rid of him, we'll work with you. So I just laughed. I laughed about it, and I sent him the letter, and I said, you can put this on your wall of shame. And he said, you're going to have a wall of shame too one day. And I thought, no, I'm not going to have a wall of shame because I get along with people. I have these are my friends. Look at me. I have a big wall of shame. I'm conflicted about it because, Mark is someone who has already earned his reputation in his field. I am just starting out. I just got my doctorate. I'm just starting out in the field, and I've already sort of made a lot of enemies with a lot of important people. And when you start working with community groups, you get branded, an activist immediately. So it's been really difficult for me to sort of balance that, trying to be an objective scientist, but then you come across these issues and you've got to make an ethical decision. We all took these ethical bounds, these ethical promises that we were going to, this is all for public health. That's my field, is public health. So at some point you just got to make a decision and stick with it. I'm trying to encourage them that the best thing to do is to test the water, and encouraging them to sort of do that just to see. It's a difficult situation because it's so full of iron and so full of particulates that filters don't seem to work.
Right.
And these are really poor town. The population has been declining. It's a majority African American, most of them, with a very, very low income. And they don't really have a political voice. It's kind of like Flint, where they were just, marginalized because it's a small population, less than 2,000 people, so, they couldn't even get their voice heard in D.C.
She is referring to a White House petition for a declaration of emergency for St. Joseph, similar to what occurred in Flint. To receive federal aid, 100,000 signatures are required, and they received under 14,000. I asked about her thoughts on whether further changes to EPA regulations should occur to help communities like St. Joseph, who have appalling water quality but are technically meeting EPA regulation.
Yeah, I think it's time for our regulations to be updated, but more importantly, I think that we really need to start paying attention to this, our infrastructure. A lot of it is over 100 years old.
Yeah.
And
absolutely.
it's going to cost some money. And we need to start thinking about that, in the long run, that we're going to need to replace a lot of this infrastructure eventually. I'm sure it's going to raise environmental justice issues because, the people that get priority are not going to be, towns like St. Joseph. You're talking about a town of 2,000 people.
Right.
Well, you have to sort of weigh,
Which
who do you help?
Yeah.